breaking news, Andrew. Huge deal between Apple and MLS breaking just before we're taping this. Sports media never sleeps.
Yeah, we thought the big story we're going to talk about is LIV and the PGA Tour, and that is going to be a big topic, and it's already gotten spicy. Rory McIlroy going after Greg Norman.
Yeah, this is a day I'll remember for a long, long time. 21st PGA Tour win, one more than someone else.
And we're back. The Marchand and Ourand Sports Media Podcast presented by USA Track and Field. I'm Andrew Marchand, sports media columnist for the New York Post. He's John Ourand, the sports media reporter for the Sports Business Journal. John, we have a huge big get. We're going to get to LIV in the PGA Tour a little bit later. Great conversation with Chris Solomon from the very popular No Laying Up pod. Really enjoyed that conversation. Really got into it deep into one of the biggest stories in sports. But as you said in the opening, breaking news as we're recording, the MLS and Apple have a deal. We've been talking about it for a while. We both reported on it early that, Apple had emerged. There were some rumblings last week, maybe not. And now here it is, a done deal. And they have a press conference. You had a story already up. So let's do it. Who's up and who's down?
Who's up? Who's down?
Who's up? It's got to be Don Garber now with MLS. I mean, look, the deal is only minutes old, so it's impossible to say whether it's a good deal for MLS or a bad deal for MLS. Time will tell. But I was around and I was covering the cable business when the NBA left NBC to go to ESPN. And this has the same feel to it. Everybody said, why would you go to cable? It's smaller. The distribution's not there. You're gonna lose money. You're gonna lose interest. Well, here, MLS, they're the first major sports league that has gone all in with a digital media company. And I hats off to Don Garber for just having the wherewithal to get this done.
I cannot wait to talk about this. This is going to be topic one. I have so many things to say just off of what you just said. It's so different than the NBA and the MLS. You're comparing those two. Okay. You have to have the bandwidth to do this. We'll talk about it. We'll get deeper into it. There's still things to come. There could be an ESPN deal for the linear and Univision for the linear, some of the linear stuff. We'll get into that in a moment. But I got a lot to say about that deal. All right. My who's up, Peyton Manning. We talked about Tom Brady, $375 million deal, overall deal from Fox, which includes doing the games when he retires from football. Peyton Manning, I don't know exactly what he makes, but I do believe he's already at 20 million plus from ESPN. Now he's added an audio podcast deal with Caesars, which again, the number's not out there. I do know it's a 3-year deal, which wasn't announced. But I mean, you think about what McAfee got, you think what LeBatard got, and you have to think that per year, Peyton Manning for this audio stuff is getting somewhere in that range, if not more. And so when you think about Tom Brady, and we don't know everything that goes in that deal at 375, that might be a good deal. Now he gets all the money. Peyton Manning does have employees, and he's really building a production company and something to watch. I think eventually he will sell that. And the question is, can he make that into a $1 billion company? Someone like ESPN or who knows buys that. But Peyton Manning, who's up? What's new for the Manning family? They're on the way up still.
Another indication, Peyton Manning is an established media star. Absolutely. I'm going to go into who's down, and I'm going to give it to Bob Chapek of Disney, and I'm going to give it to him because he lost a rights battle in India. The Indian Cricket Premier League ended up going with Viacom 18. That's a partnership between Paramount Global and Reliance Industries. It was something that Disney desperately wanted to keep because they were able to stream those games, and they got a ton of subscribers from that. All of a sudden, I'm seeing statements come out from Disney now that they're, being cost effective. The price got too high. I've been covering this space for a long time, Andrew. Every time somebody loses a rights deal, oh, the price got too high. That's what happened. It rings hollow. There's going to be some trouble for Disney Plus and their subscriber numbers going forward.
All right. So now the new opening to the podcast is we're back. Welcome to the International Sports Media Podcast. John taking us overseas, going after Chapek and looking at the Indian cricket rights. Amazon also, they were in on that and then were out as well. That's something that they were looking into maybe getting, because those are, like we've talked about, they're very popular around the world. All right, who's down for me? PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan did an interview with Jim Nance on CBS. And did not do well. Nance asked good questions and Monahan had no answers. We get into it a little later with Chris Solomon for no laying up. But my big thing is, though, if you're going to do that interview, you have to have something to say. And he kind of feels like their approach is just the hope that this will go away, that LIV will go away, their money will go away. That doesn't seem to be happening. Then more players won't go. There's no real answers and no real, I feel like, leadership from Monahan on this, especially in terms of publicly what you're going to say. The questions that Nance asked were good, but they weren't surprising. And I just thought you could have better answers. And it is sad what's going on, just the overall state of golf. Maybe this disruption can create something better, but if it does, it's going to take a long time for that to happen. And I don't know if it will happen. Jay Monahan, again, it's a tough deal because you're going against somebody who has endless pockets and really no business plan here, except for sports washing and improving their name in the world with the Saudi Arabians. But Monahan's not doing a great job so far.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize, hats off to Jim Nance. He asked very simple, direct questions. It was befuddling. It seemed like Monahan didn't know the questions that were coming. Certainly, like he had to be prepped for those questions, and it didn't feel like that. Yeah,
you would think. And he was even-handed, Nance. So good job there. Nance is, at his best at golf. That's what he's most passionate about, and he's part of the sport. But and again, that was good because again, it wasn't too confrontational, which is not, like the best interviews aren't necessarily confrontational. Like he could have really gone after him on some of the things he said. What you're really trying to do is get people to explain and be as honest as possible. And where Monahan really came up short is he just didn't have explanations. And I get it. There's pressure, like he hadn't spoken, that he needed to talk. But that really didn't work out well at all. John, let's move to the topics and the start. MLS and Apple have a deal. You reported $250 million at minimum. It's a partnership. Just first off, just lay the land of what this deal, just explain to somebody who hasn't read anything about it, if you could, for us, in terms of what this deal, what it's made up and what could also happen with ESPN, Univision, et cetera.
Andrew, I can't emphasize enough. This is a potentially industry shifting deal. This is the MLS is, I'm going to answer your question, but first I'm going to just say that MLS, they're the first major league to go all digital. This means that if you want to see an MLS game, any MLS game, you have to download the Apple app. Some are going to be available for free. Some are going to be on Apple TV Plus, but they're getting a package that they're going to stream where you can see any game, no blackout, all the local games, all the national games, every single game. They're taking the schedule. Most of the games are going to be on Wednesdays and on Saturdays, so that they're going to do a red zone type channel around this. Look, MLS has not been too successful with on linear television. The numbers for MLS are consistently underwhelmed. This is a way, that they have a younger fan base. They have a more tech savvy fan base. This could be a natural to go to Apple. I mean, I'm not willing to say this is a good deal or a bad deal. That's something that we'll be able to decide in probably 5 or 6 years. But it certainly is an industry shifting deal. It's a totally unique deal.
It's a bigger deal long term because of Apple's involvement. I don't initially really like it for MLS. Okay. The reason it's a bigger deal to me for Apple's involvement is the things we've talked about with Amazon and what they've done. Is this laying the groundwork? Let's see what this does. And can we do this replicated with the Premier League? eventually replicate it with La Liga, and other things where they buy everything. Because for them, even though $250 million, I think, is way more than the networks were willing to pay for this, which is always your big point, right? Nobody wanted Thursday Night Football with Amazon, and now Apple comes in, they pay way more. Nobody really wanted this, right? Nobody wanted MLS. And for MLS, you compared this, I'm going to kill you on this one, okay? Because you compared this to the NBA, the National Basketball Association, in the height of Michael Jordan, going from NBC to ESPN and ABC to the MLS. The problem with the MLS, okay, and this doesn't solve it. Yes, Apple's everywhere, but I'm going to have to go find the games, right? I've already found, I'm a huge soccer fan. I love soccer.
You own an iPhone. It's going to be very easy for you to find these games.
What you're missing, though, I have to choose the find. Yes, I have the phone in my hand, and they already do the alerts for Friday Night Baseball. If it's not the Yankees or the Mets, there's barely any chance I'm going to flip on, Tigers and Royals on Friday out of my own, like if I'm not doing it for, let me check out the broadcast for work, then I'm going to do that. So yeah, you can keep telling me the Houston Dynamo are playing the Chicago Fire. I can watch Man United. I can watch, I shouldn't use them right now, Chelsea. I can watch Liverpool, Tottenham, Manchester City. I can watch all those teams. I can watch Messi.
But why didn't you pick the Red Bulls? You can watch the Red Bulls too. Any game.
But the point is, though, I can the MLS has no advantage domestically over any of these leagues, except I can go to a game, which is a very good experience. Going to an MLS game is a very good experience. To go to a Premier League game, people do that, but that's thousands of dollars. You got to go, obviously, to England, and so that you don't have that. But beyond that, it's a level playing field, and you can even argue the Premier League has, and these other leagues, the European leagues, have an advantage because their games are predominantly in the morning, which isn't against any other major sports programming, and they're the only game in town most weeks. So I don't see, now there could be, I think there will be, from what I've heard, this is not done yet as we're speaking, ESPN had done 34, 35 games, and they'll probably have 25 games linear, and maybe the MLS Cup, you tell me.
That's another question, but I just want to go back to your other point. Like, you're pretending that MLS just did a deal with beIN Sport.
I'm not pretending. I get it. It's Apple.
This is Apple. Like, everybody has an iPhone in their pocket. Like the marketing might. Everybody talks about the marketing might of Disney. Think of the marketing might of Apple and being a part of that.
So explain that to me. So I have my phone, right, and they do the annoying Apple News thing to me, and I got to figure out how to turn that off because it frustrates me. Because go to the Post, go to Sports Business Journal. We don't give Apple more money. Okay. Number one. Okay. Number two is, what are they going to do? What do you say there? So I'm a huge, I'm the audience. I get it. I'm too old. All right, fine. I'm too old, but I'm like the audience in terms of, I'm a soccer fan who can be convinced. I know what they've done with the league, and this is not going to help them grow the league. The dream for soccer fans like me in America is to have Messi's and Ronaldo's in their prime coming here. They don't have that. They've done a little better on the, getting younger players, but they're not going to, the dream is that they're going to compete one day with the Premier League and get the best players in La Liga and Barcelona and Real Madrid. This deal is not doing that.
If the whole industry is moving towards streaming, which it is on the entertainment side, it's going a lot slower on the sports side. You're a first mover to get in with Apple. What happens if they bring in Sunday Ticket? Which they're either the front runner or second on. What happens if they go and bring in the NBA and do a partnership with the NBA, and it becomes a sport?
Okay, so let's get into, because I like to always kitchen table like this stuff, right, John? You're not a huge soccer guy, right?
Yeah, I've been doing a DC United game here and there.
Okay, but you're not if it got
no, I'm not a huge.
There's a game on. I'm a big soccer guy. Obviously, you watch a lot for work, so you have to watch different things that you don't necessarily watch. But I'm always interested in what soccer game is on. I'm my list of games to watch, MLS is way down there, and I'm not trying to kill. There are people who like MLS. great in-game experience is very good, but like this also includes all the local rights. And I know they weren't getting much, they probably weren't making that much, but those are a lot of games. That's a lot of inventory when you get to $250 million. That's not really to me, a tremendous deal. The point I'm trying to make, John, is that you just said the ratings aren't good. So people aren't watching when you act like they're not coming from a great distribution source. They had ESPN, they had Fox locally here. They're on Yes and MSG. Like, I get it. We're moving towards streaming. Perhaps we've had this discussion a lot. Like, is sports really going to work that well on streaming? They're not getting people to watch that way. So you're saying, because I have an iPhone, I'm going to watch now? I don't think so. You're not going to grow. Maybe I'll be wrong. I don't see you growing the pie because also the product's not good enough. The product as a TV video product is not good enough. That's the problem with MLS.
When does the NFL play its games?
All the time, and then they play them Sundays.
Actually, all the time now.
Sunday, and predominantly Sundays. Is that what we're getting at?
Yeah, here's what
you got all their talking points.
I do. By the way, this is I think this is a legit talking point, though. The NBA on TNT Thursday night. It's great. The NBA on ESPN Friday nights. The Sunday on ABC. Do you know when an MLS start time is? They're all over the map.
I think they're already mostly Saturday and Wednesday right now.
They're starting based on TV schedules, based on stadium schedules. They're now going to streamline those to Wednesday and Saturday. It's going to be more appointment viewing. And look, I'm not willing to say this is going to be a surefire hit. I'm willing to take a look, and I can see why they did this deal.
It's 10 years. That's a long time.
I think on our pod, I am the skeptic on these digital companies. And this is yet another instance, as you said earlier, where they're still not getting, nobody was bidding that amount of money for that amount of content on linear television. And until Apple or Amazon are able to actually come in and get a package of rights that the linear TV guys really want, a la the NBA, a la the Big Ten, that's coming up. I mean, that's when it's really going to make me raise my eyebrows.
I think what you just said, I just won the argument. So you just said, like, nobody really wanted this.
How can you win the argument? My argument is wait and see.
Okay. That's not an argument. First off, all right. But here's the thing, and then we got to move on. But this is the significance to me is if Apple is kind of trying this out to see if this works and it goes to other sports. That's really the significance of it. For MLS, fine, it's an okay deal. I just feel like I don't know, maybe it wouldn't have mattered if they stayed with ESPN and Fox and they would have gotten less money. I get that. It
wasn't working with those guys, though. The numbers were.
Why? But why? Wait, now let me ask you. And then, do you think ESPN, if you're distributing something, do you think ESPN and Fox are better than Apple right now?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Like, if you're distributing games, I mean, I get it. I totally respect Apple's. I mean, who Apple is, obviously.
Listen, yeah. If I'm distributing games, I find that Fox and ABC are better than ESPN and FS1, and I find that ESPN and FS1 are better than digital companies. I think that's the sort of progression that you go. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So MLS is going to some place where, again, it is Apple. They will be around a little bit, but in terms of growing the amount of people who are going to be watching this, maybe it works. I mean, I agree that like younger people, they don't like look to turn on the TV. That's fair. And so maybe, you know what, a younger person has their phone and they'll watch these MLS games. I mean, here's the bottom line about this whole thing. MLS, and this is a frustration for any soccer fan, they need to get the product even better. It's not bad. It's just not, we're the United States of America. We have the best football league. We have the best basketball league. We have the best hockey league. We expect to have the best, and MLS is in probably the top 10 someplace in terms of leagues around the world. You need somebody else to rank them. We can have Taylor Twellman or somebody on to rank them all for us.
I love when you mention Terps.
Oh yeah. We'll see. I guess they're going to do a smaller deal with ESPN and ABC, and
We'll see on that. So they're out negotiating with Fox or negotiating with ESPN. They want a linear TV component because they want to grow the game. They want to get the game in front of as many people as they can, and they're very confident. So like I expect that they'll get.
Yeah, I think a deal. I think there'll be a linear deal. Like I said, 35 to 25 games.
If I was advising these TV networks, why would you help build up what's a potential competitor in Apple that's going to be coming into I don't know what I would pay for those rights because they're all going to be simulcast with Apple.
I have one more for you. Would you rather be on ESPN Plus or Apple TV?
There's so many ifs that go into that. If I'm the MLS and I'm the only one on Apple and I'm going to be the only one benefiting from Apple, yeah, I think I'd take Apple. If I'm going to be one of like 30 leagues on ESPN Plus, oh God, LaPlaca is going to call me now, isn't he?
Yeah, Chris LaPlaca, head of PR. Yep.
Oh,
go ahead.
God.
First off, you're wrong. And listen, Chris LaPlaca is the head of ESPN's PR. He would be right because it's better to be on with a lot of sports because then I turn to that and I go, oh, what's on in a sports network? And then ESPN's talking about you all the time. Here's the bottom line. MLS, you need to get
on Apple. I don't have to turn to it. It alerts me in my pocket, man.
But you're not going to watch it.
Well, I'm not going to watch it on ESPN Plus either.
Got it.
Andrew, let's go to topic 2. Huge change over at Turner. Another big surprise. Luis Silberwasser, a longtime colleague and friend of David Zaslav, has been picked to run Turner Sports. He's going to run Warner Media Sports. He had a long, storied career at Discovery. He was over at Univision, and it's something that came out just last week and really surprised the business.
All right. First off, before we get to that, in the background, John is he's like a public speaker. So he spoke at the Bank of America conference or something. Got paid, I think, $100,000 for his event. And he's doing the pod outside. I don't know if you can hear. There's like birds or crickets.
Can you hear the birds?
I hear it. I don't know if it's coming through. We'll have to listen back.
I thought that was Chris Mason in my cheering section there.
Yeah, Chris Mason, our outstanding producer. It's like, all right. So anyways, all right, back to Warner
Bros. My hotel room's a mess. I had to get out here.
All right. No, it's a good look. I mean, I like the trees. It's a very leafy look for Ourand, but I don't know if you can hear that in the background. There's is it crickets or birds or I don't know what that is.
Some wildlife. I don't know.
Wildlife. He's giving us the outside experience. You look at it, what Silberwasser is going to have to do. I mean, I think number one, the first question to me, does Lenny Daniels stay? He's the president of Turner Sports. He was up for this job. They went another direction. I've written and connected him to ESPN. A lot of people in the business have asked me, well, what would he do there? I don't know exactly. I do know I've been told that he and Jimmy Pitaro, the chairman of ESPN, have a tight relationship. So I do think there's something there. I do think there's some smoke there. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. Maybe Lenny Daniels decides I can make it work under this new hierarchy. He did make it work when Jeff Zucker came in the previous before the merger. That's a huge question because that's when you get inside the baseball of this stuff, that's one that will be interesting to see how it plays out. And what's your feeling on that?
Yeah. I don't have a good read on this. I think it's like literally 50-50. He was going for a position that he didn't get. So typically you would think that's an executive that would be leaving, right? But Lenny is a survivor, man. He knows how to adapt. Because you mentioned Zucker. There's Levy before, David Levy. He sort of grew up under that. He's been through these changes numerous times. I think that the way this came about and the fact that it was such a surprise, it probably wasn't a huge surprise to Lenny, but he didn't know too long before this came down, I'm sure. I just don't know how that's going to play out. There could be changes. I saw your initial tweet suggesting ESPN. I thought you were full of it. I made some calls, and yeah, I mean, there is certain there's. I'm not saying that's a destination, but there is smoke there. There's
I went from full of it to what?
I'll tell you what, Andrew's tweeting, when you tweet like, hey, this could be, you're almost never sitting there like, scratching your head and just putting something out. It's always pretty reported. So it's,
like I said, I've heard that he and Jimmy Pitaro do have a good relationship. So I'm not definitely going to happen, but I could see it. Let's just look at Silberwasser. We both, to a lot of people who are in sports media, that name came out of basically nowhere. There had been some rumored name that we never reported upon. Well, you did like a glowing feature trying to get ahead of a story there. You're going to give that up that you did that or not?
Hey, I'm not telling you my secrets. Like,
they did this glowing feature. You guys can look at John's glowing features that have happened the last couple of weeks, and then see where the rumors were coming from of certain people who might work at WME. You got to give the names now. Come on.
What, Karen Brodkin and Hillary Mandel?
Yeah, Karen Brodkin was a rumored name.
The dynamic duo. Yeah, Karen was.
And then John, so that rumored name was out there. We both had heard it, but nobody reported, I don't think. And then John does this and I'm sure well deserved, but does this glowing feature just coincidentally. Look at him going for scoops. Anyways, that no glowing feature though. Then after, hold on a second. I actually was going to read. Then he does his newsletter when Luis Silberwasser, and he quotes all his friends saying how great the guy is. I was going to read those. I'm going to be like, all right, this guy, oh, wow, this guy's amazing. But here you go. Forget about this for a second, though. I'm teasing you.
One guy called him elegant.
Elegant. All right, we'll never say that about me. I know that.
No, my profile on Karen Brodkin, I have to defend myself here a little bit. My profile on Karen Brodkin and Hillary Mandel, I've been two women in this like hugely male-dominated business. I've been trying to do their story. I've been bugging them for like 3-4 years, and they never wanted to do it. And they finally said yes at the Super Bowl this year. So
all right, fine. So it's all right. So I made it. All right. So that's what I don't like to do. That's why I don't, when I tweet something, usually I don't just throw stuff out there. There's hopefully some knowledge behind it. So, but that time I didn't. So I apologize. All right. Last thing on Silberwasser. What do you think biggest things when you listed in the beginning, what he's coming into, all that? What's the biggest thing when you look at Turner Sports and what's the number one in your mind, or two?
Everybody's going to say the NBA or streaming. I just, when David Zaslav took over Warner Media, everybody, including myself, thought that they were going to be a really big company in sports. They're going to be vying for all these rights. If I were sports leagues and conferences, I would be a little bit concerned because it doesn't look like they're going to be these spendthrifts that are going out there. They are not involved in the Big Ten negotiations. So they sort of pulled out from that. They were not really kicking the tires on MLS. Some of these open rights that are out there, like look, David Zaslav loves sports, but he loves making money more than that. And he's going to be very disciplined. So how that pertains to the NBA and what they end up doing to structure something to become more attractive for the NBA is something that this is more of an answer about Zaslav than it is about Silberwasser. But Silberwasser is a longtime friend of Zaslav. They're gonna march lockstep together.
All right. What is last thing on this for me? Do you love sports or making money more? You said Zaslav's like making money more than sports. Which one does John Ourand like better?
Oh, I'm a journalist. I like sports. Yeah. I mean, come on. Andrew Marchand, what do you like more?
How much money?
You wouldn't be a reporter for the New York Post if you like making money, I think.
Okay. Right? How much money? It depends how much money. All
right. Topic 3. Let's do a couple of quick hitters. Andrew, Sean McDonough. You have some interesting stats on him.
Yeah, we're doing some quick hitters here before we get to the big get. Sean McDonough, this is off the top of my head, but he's doing the Stanley Cup Finals right now. He already did the World Series. There's not many play-by-players who have done 2 of the big 4 major sports championships. I'm talking about the Super Bowl, the World Series, the Stanley Cup, and the NBA Finals. So you have McDonough now. He joins this club. Al Michaels, Super Bowl, World Series, NBA Finals. He has 3. And I don't know if there's anybody else who has 3 of the 4. And then you have not a lot, but you have a couple with 2. You have Joe and Jack Buck. Jack Buck did do 1 Super Bowl. We're only talking about TV. Jack Buck did a number on radio. You have Dick Enberg, Kurt Gowdy, Dick Stockton. And that's basically it. Those are just the group that I got, when I think of the four majors. A couple of those, it was one like Stockton, it was one of the local announcers did the World Series, but still pretty good company for Sean McDonough now with Stanley Cup, and he already did a World Series when he was at CBS a long time ago.
I'll give you Jim Nance, Super Bowl Final Four. You put the Final Four in there?
No, I was just doing the four major professional sports. Yeah, you can start going, Nance Final Four, that does the Masters. And so there's a lot of other events that you could do. You get into radio. I was just talking about TV, four major professional sports, team sports, and McDonough joins that group.
All right, quick hitter. You broke another story on Amazon and Carissa Thompson. What's going on?
Yeah, she's going to be the host for Thursday Night Football. They did have talks with Kay Adams. They were just really apart financially. And then I think Nate Burleson at one point was someone they were interested in hosting, but he has got a million jobs, including CBS this morning. So Carissa Thompson, who I think does a really good job on Fox on Sundays on their pre-game show before their big show on Sundays on the NFL. So she'll be hosting. I've already reported Ryan Fitzpatrick might join her. Richard Sherman, I think, is going to be part of that crew. They've already announced Tony Gonzalez, and then Marshawn Lynch is also someone who I've linked to Amazon. So Carissa Thompson, Amazon getting their NFL team together. Of course, Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit on the game call.
All right, with no further ado, let's get to the big get, man.
All right, John, the big get, Chris Solomon from the very popular No Laying Up Pod, probably the biggest golf podcast going these days. Chris, we really appreciate you joining us, especially because LIV and the PGA Tour, it's the biggest topic maybe in sports, but obviously definitely in golf.
Oh, that's what you guys want to talk about. I thought for sure it was about the RBC Canadian Open last week or the Curtis Cup or something along those lines. But I guess if you want to, we could talk about that.
We actually did lead the show.
Curtis and what's his cup?
Yeah, we did lead the show with Rory McIlroy going after Greg Norman, which is pretty spicy. Oh, gee, I know it's stuff you guys like to talk about, and it's good stuff. All right, so look, John, let's just start off. This is less of an interview, this big get, than more of kind of a conversation. So on, I think last Friday on your pod, you eloquently put how the PGA Tour, their situation. Now, we're a prudcast, so I'm not going to use your exact word, but you said the PGA Tour is effed. Can you explain that to our audience, what you meant by that? Very eloquent.
It is it's a very long answer that I'll try to sum up as succinctly as I can. And that the way this tour is structured and the way it has evolved over the years, the foundation of it cracked a long time ago. This tour was set up way prior. The structure of it was set up way prior to, sports media landscape changing so greatly, before big TV deals, before Tiger Woods came along. This is a 501c6 organization, which is essentially a trade organization that is a nonprofit that has many members, of something like 250 members of the organization, which the tour is not able, efficiently to treat other, one player different than the group as a whole. And it has many people at the top of the game have felt like their market value is not being realized completely. And an irrational actor has entered the landscape here, one that is not competing, not in the game on market forces, really. They have a much larger play in place, and that is the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, who is poaching players one by one with outrageous contracts that are really being underestimated how big they are. And it's all anyone's talking about, but still it's already gotten to the point where $100 million becomes a footnote in the conversation. And instead of it being, enough emphasis on how much money that is, it's just kind of like, yeah, that's just a small little, cog in the machine that they have going over there. And now, now that, they've had their first event in London last week, and now that guys are, these paychecks are clearing, they are expecting another wave of players to be announced. There has been another wave of players to be announced, and there will be more. And it really does seem like, at best, we're going to get a very separated and fractured golf world going forward.
Week one of LIV. Give me your impressions.
It was audacious. It was loud. It was brash. It was a very heavy propaganda machine going to make sure everyone around the world knew how much fun everyone was having on site and how incredibly excited all the players are to be here. And now let's welcome in Patrick Reed, our next, player. The fans love him, which anyone who has followed the game of golf could only laugh at that, because Patrick Reed is probably the most, if not one of the most unpopular players in professional golf. And it was, it was a different format. It was a telecast, a broadcast that was on YouTube for fans in the United States that had no commercials.
I'm not sure we can call that a telecast, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you call it. It was a live stream. We make videos on YouTube. We've been joking. We have a new YouTube content creator rivals. Dustin Johnson's now a content creator on YouTube instead of a professional golfer, because it felt like an exhibition. There was outrageous amount of money paid out, $4 million to Charles Schwartzel, who won, and then he got another $750,000 on top of that, with his team that won. The teams are temporary. They are drafting them week by week as it stands. They have comically bad team names associated with them. The Stinger Golf Club won this past week. There's the High Flyers and the Smash Golf Club. And it just sounds like something you would see on Nickelodeon, honestly. And it just didn't feel like professional golf. It's not why I love golf. It's not why I got into golf. I really enjoy the competition aspect of it. And the entertainment value that comes from that is what brings golf fans into the game. It's not whatever the hell that was. So it was a sad week for the game of golf, because it's very clear where things are going, where things have been trending really for the last 4 years, ever since the public investment fund put on the Saudi International in 2018. They were able to pay huge appearance fees to a lot of the word I keep using is stooges, who were willing to take this money and say great things about all the things going on in Saudi Arabia. And they realized how easy this golf world was to disrupt and to buy and to just, pay off all these players outrageous amounts of money to launder their image around the world. And I'm not geopolitically strong enough to be having these conversations. I've had to learn this stuff on the fly, really, to understand the much larger play here. And that just makes me sad. Like I don't want to talk about Saudi Arabia and, their geopolitical stances and many of the things that have happened there over the last, short term and long term. It's just not why I got into golf, but these things have kind of been forced upon us, and it looks like they're here to stay.
Now, Chris, earlier in the pod, for my who's down, we do who's up, who's down every week. Mine was PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan, because his interview. First off, he was silent. He didn't hear a word from him. It kind of felt like he's just hoping for things to go away. Then he does an interview with Jim Nance. Nance asks some pretty good questions, but straightforward questions, and there didn't really seem like a plan except to maybe guilt guys into staying. If you're Jay Monahan, you're the commissioner of the PGA Tour, what should they be doing? What should he be doing?
It's a great question. And where I settle on this is this does not seem to be the consensus of a lot of people I've talked to, but if you don't have a whole lot to say, there's not much point in saying it. One, there is a pending and potential legal battle on the front, that the PGA Tour has suspended all players that have played in the last LIV event. They suspended 17 players. Some say indefinitely, some say it's, that it depends on, whether they keep playing. We don't know the length of the suspension, but that is expected to be fought by some in court in some way to say this is an anti-competitive behavior. You cannot be doing this, to your PGA Tour members. It's, even though that is in the rules and regulations, it is the opinion of many that it's not a legal thing for them to be doing. So what benefit is there to go out there when I'm sure he's got, as Greg Norman described it, high-priced lawyers in his ear talking about Monahan, telling him probably not to say a lot of details about this, because the tour is sitting back and letting the LIV people say a lot of things about it. And I'm sure taking copious notes of all the phrases and words they use for that upcoming legal battle, whenever that does come. And it does not benefit him much to go out and give non-answers to questions that, he doesn't want to give out a lot. I'm not a lawyer either, right? The only thing I do know about it is a lot of lawyers get in your ear and say, shut up and don't say anything. And that kind of seems like a little bit of that is going on. So I didn't think there was much benefit in Monahan going out there on Sunday and trying to appeal some to his players, but it just feels like he comes off, and the tour as a whole has come off as being kind of a jilted ex-boyfriend or girlfriend. It just seems like they're a little heartbroken and they're taking it very personally. And I don't know if they're expecting that to appeal to the players that they're still trying to convince to stay. or think that it's going to, appeal to the fans. I don't know exactly. I just know they've been dealt a very, 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 very tough hand, and that it's really tough to have predicted. This has been, this undercurrent's been there for a while, but like I said, this is such an irrational actor that has entered the space, right? They had competitive advantage over anyone that wanted to set up a business around golf.
Yep.
And that is not what LIV Golf is. It is a play for the entire economy of Saudi Arabia. One small, tiny pawn of a chess piece of their whole plan for Vision 2030. And they're just nothing. They can't compete on the money front. They just absolutely cannot, not under their current structure. I know that's where we started our conversation, to say their current structure is what's holding them back from being able to match or throw any reasonable amount of money at these players to get them to stay. Because again, the numbers are just outrageous.
I cover, the media rights that they're virtually zero, or that they are zero in the United States anyway, which is, the prime market. Sponsorship, everybody's trying to flee. And I am getting some pushback from people saying, like, you have to stop treating them like it's a normal league launch.
Yeah, I don't know really what it is, and again, I'm resigned to sadness. Like I love this game, and that's what makes it, just the double down of a lot of the things that people that have taken the money are saying. It's kind of like a bingo card. You can, I've gotten many bingos along the way. To every time somebody says I'm not a politician, I'm just a golfer. I'm here to play the golf. And one of the common phrases they hear is to grow the game around the world, grow the game in Saudi Arabia. And I just want to ask, like, why not, why don't you want to grow the game in Bangladesh? Why don't you want to grow it in Uzbekistan, right? Oh, because those countries aren't paying you to do it, right? So don't try to pretend like you care about growing the game in Saudi Arabia or anywhere else. You care about the money. They can't say that. And it just makes for really awkward waste of a time press conferences like Phil Mickelson's was yesterday, where people asked very direct questions and he just, would take his time to say, I respect people's opinion on that. And that's really all I have to say. And it's just kind of sad. It's somebody who's been so brazen for so many years about so many things he said, just resigned to not being able to say anything. And everyone in the room knows why. And it's just like, it just kind of felt like everything that, happened before this was a lie.
Chris, No Laying Up is among the most popular podcasts in the Sports Business Journal newsroom. I mean, if you're a golf fan.
Is that the demo? Wait, Chris, is that the demo you're going for? Because that's a pretty good, demo. I got to be honest with you.
I guess it always amazes me that anyone listens, but I'm always surprised to hear some of the people that do listen.
Not quite as popular as the Marchand and Ourand Sports Media podcast, but I digress. You cater, if you're a golf fan though, you're listening to No Laying Up. It's very popular in golf circles. Among the hardcore sports fans, do they care about the Saudis? Do they care about that geopolitical at all?
It's a great question. I find the conversations I have in person very different from the ones I have on social media. I don't know if I'm dealing with bots on Twitter. That is also in the Saudi playbook, to unleash a slew of trolls to just reply under your replies to, harass you and whatnot. There's a lot of whataboutism that goes on to say, well, what about China? The PGA Tour is dealing with China. What about, you're tweeting this from your iPhone that was made in China. And it's crazy the things that people will equate to this sports washing campaign. But I would say among the hardcore fan, they mostly likely agree, I want to say, with the idea that, like, this isn't good for competitive golf. Like, it's not market forces. There's there's some people that say competition's better for the sport. Not this kind, like not straight government bribes, basically.
My point is, like, it's less about like, boy, I don't want to support an oppressive regime. And it's more about, I don't like what it's doing to a sport I love.
That's a tough question. It is. I can't pretend to speak for a large amount of people to say. I don't think it is a slightly more of a media thing in terms of being kind of put off by where the money's come from and things like that. But I think it's also up to the audience to be kind of informed on these things. It might not be where their mind initially goes with this. I mean, you might turn on the YouTube and see this weird new golf format, and you might think it's great and might not ever think about where the money comes from. That's exactly what their goal is. That's what they want. But I think it's also the media's obligation to kind of make sure that people are informed as to say what exactly it is you are supporting, and if you're aware of what you're supporting, and if you still want to support it after that. But I think it would be an entirely different conversation. I don't know if this answers your question, John, if this league was funded by Mark Cuban or Elon Musk or something like that, I think it would be a very different conversation as to what kind of entertainment value it gives to golf fans.
And we look at the television side of things, and the majors, of course, are the biggest draws. And I think those kind of are maybe perhaps a tipping point and what Monahan's hoping for. What's your feeling on what the majors will do?
It's probably the question right now, right?
Oh, I just want to say, I wanted you to say that's a great question, because right now it's 1-1, Ourand and Marchand. I got one great question. John got one great question. I didn't get a great there. I was actually keeping score in my head. All right, 1-1 still. We've got a couple minutes left.
Don't give it now, Chris. Don't give it now.
That was an okay question.
Okay.
I think
grade the questions.
That was a question everybody expected. Go ahead, Chris.
So what the golf world ticks on, and it's actually, I feel like a topic that hasn't been quite discussed enough, but what makes the golf world tick is the official world golf rankings. It's how you play in competitive golf events, you earn points, you earn enough points, and that gets you into major championships. That gets you into WGC events. It's what dictates the field. The top 60 of the world golf rankings make it to the US Open, top 50 make it into the Masters. I don't know off the top of my head what it is that makes it in the PGA Championship, but as of right now, the LIV Golf Tour does not have official world golf ranking points. So if you are suspended from the PGA Tour and playing only on the LIV Tour, it's only a matter of time before there's a 2-year aging system that goes to your world golf ranking points, where at the end of 2 years, Dustin Johnson will have 0 points other than what he's able to earn in the majors currently, right? He's in on world ranking right now and a recent major championship victory. He may not be the best example, but let's say Taylor Gooch. He is here off his world ranking here right now. And if he doesn't play in any events that earn him world ranking points, he will fall out of that and not be able to earn his way back in unless he goes and plays the Asian Tour or plays the DP World Tour or something like that. So it can be kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy if they don't end up getting world ranking points, which there are no tours that play 54-hole events that get world ranking points. And if you could dive in, the board of the official world golf ranking system is the PGA Tour, Augusta National. It is the PGA of America. It is the USGA. It is the RNA, and it's the International Federation of PGA Tours. So I don't know exactly how, if you say it like that, it certainly sounds like they're not going to approve this because of the threat that this provides. And I don't know what that opens them up to legally, but it's going to be an uphill battle for them to get the world ranking points that are required for these guys to stay in the world golf ranking ecosystem and qualify for the majors. So Augusta National is a different question. They have long invited their past champions to compete well into their 50s and even into their 60s if they can still compete. What they are going to do is going to dictate a lot. I think everyone that's playing LIV that is qualified for the British Open and the US Open are going to be able to play this year. And then next up will be Augusta next year. They pretty much make their own rules. They've been closely aligned with the PGA Tour for a long time. I have no inside information on this, but the sentiment seems to be that they would expect some kind of action from them. They don't want to look silly. I don't think. I really don't know. I don't know what to expect, but the rumor flying around tends to be that they're going to swing hammers on these guys. And that would be an enormous development in the game of golf, which it feels like we have an enormous development in the game of golf pretty much daily these days.
Week 1 to LIV to me seemed like, a cross between like the senior tour and like the villains of the PGA Tour, sort of people that you would have expected to go. If I'm reading between the lines, it sounds like you're expecting a lot more defections that are going to come as a surprise to Andrew and me.
Well, hold on a second. To John, hold on a second.
I did. I will not be
surprised. Okay, John, to be a surprise to John, that was almost, by the way, that was almost a great question, because I have a question that was similar, because I was going to ask you, who's the guy outside? So I'm going to do it. Maybe we can get a Tiger, because I want to add to his question here. The guy outside of Tiger, right? Who's the guy, and we don't think Tiger's going, who's the guy who you think could go, who's like a tipping point guy outside of, obviously Tiger's the one, but besides him, is there somebody else out there you're like, you know what, maybe he would go and that would really be something?
That's a really good question. That is a really good question.
I feel like I'm on around the horn. I need to be giving out points to each of you whenever you ask the right questions. But
oh gosh, all right.
So it is a very good question, and that there are a second tier of rumored names that I'm hesitant to even name, because I really don't know what's going to happen. But it seems like, to your exact point, if this domino falls, these 4 guys may follow, right? And I'll just throw out a few names. And again, this does not mean that they are going to jump. They just have been pretty quiet on it. And John Rahm stood up today and, like, again, re-emphasized his loyalty to the PGA Tour. Justin Thomas has left zero doubt in his plans. Rory McIlroy has left zero doubt on his plans, but Ricky Fowler is in the news a lot of rumors going around that would tend to make sense for him. And then you have a slew of guys like, say, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, guys that have not been as outspoken about where their loyalties lie. Brooks Koepka was a little testy with the media, asking about it today. I've heard both sides of the rumor mill. He's definitely in, he's definitely out. I don't know, but I feel like, if one or so of those guys go, it's just the more normal it becomes for guys going, there is another wave of guys waiting, I think, to say, all right, well, why wouldn't I take this money? Or I may miss my chance. Like, if I wait any longer, they may not be giving out these 5-year deal contracts to these guys for, 9 figures, and I should go now. Like how the PGA Tour's handled this, I don't feel great about their future. I should go now. But I do think no matter what, we're going to get, those 3 or 4 guys I mentioned that are going to stay. Like those are the competitive golfers going forward. The rest are kind of exhibitionists. Is kind of how I view it. And I don't think that's better for the golf world to split those two, but it's hard. I think at best now the tour is going to be 75% of what it was, and that's at best. I think Bryson was a huge loss. He is an entertaining golfer. He's not the most popular golfer, but you feel something when you watch that guy come on the screen, how he approaches the game of golf, how that fits into 72-hole competition, serious competition, is very entertaining to watch him drive it over the entire lake at Bay Hill, 394 yards and whatever that was, how that fits into real competition versus whatever that is on the other, in the other league is interesting. And it's not going to be that interesting to watch him do it just for piles and piles of cash. And that's kind of where I stand on it.
One last question. What has to happen for LIV to fail?
That's a great question. That's a really great question.
Hold on. I think I get last licks. I get a little more. Go ahead.
So I'll tell you what, I'm going to answer it first by saying what doesn't matter in this scenario. It doesn't matter if nobody watches this thing. It's not, hey, if the ratings are bad, they're going to cancel this thing. That's not it. Again, we're dealing with irrational actors. It's not going to fail if they don't get the players they want. Again, it's not, it's a long game for them. They think they can outlast and outspend the PGA Tour and counting on getting guys into the future. It's such a drop in the bucket for them that I don't see them necessarily getting bored with it. But I'll tell you how it can fail, and that is some kind of change in leadership. And I don't pretend to know all the inner workings of the Saudi Arabian government or the royal family, but let's say Mohammed bin Salman is no longer in power and, is not in charge of the public investment fund and is not overseeing Gulf Saudi anymore. Maybe Gulf Saudi goes away, or I honestly forget the guy's name. I think Yasser or something, the head of Gulf Saudi, if he is no longer in power in that position and, in general, Gulf Saudi goes away at the drop of a hand, that's how it fails. It has to be an internal struggle to say, this is no longer fulfilling our mission, or it's not accomplishing much for us, or it's not dissimilar to how a lot of stuff works at the sponsorship level, like at the PGA Tour. There's executives of, insert company right here that are big golf fans, and they say, well, let's direct some of our budget right there. Or it might be, hey, we're big fans of sailing. Let's spend our money in sailing. Or it kind of can hinge on one or two people. It's how our business works. If a couple of our key contacts leave the companies that we work with, they may no longer sponsor us, right? Just based on different interests and whatnot. So that's really the only way I see it failing right now is if there's a change in leadership or change in the decision makers of spending that money. And I have no idea what the likelihood of that actually is, but that's what I see now.
So we'll be listening to the No Laying Up pod. If you're not listening to it and you want to know about what we just talked about, I mean, Chris and his guys, it's really good stuff. And like I said, eloquent stuff too, like the opening thing I said about the PGA Tour being effed. I thought that was really good. But Chris, we really appreciate it. We're disappointed, I think, and everyone listening is disappointed that you gave John the great question edge, but he deserved it. But sincerely, really congratulations on all your guys' success. It's a tremendous story. We probably need to have you on another time just to go through your story, because what you guys built from the ground up is pretty incredible.
Well, inside the pod here, like, we wanted to have you on to talk about how you built up your media business, which is, I've been writing about you for years now, and it really is a unique thing. But LIV was so big, we had to have you on. So thanks for your time and good luck this week.
Anytime, and these takes will probably be expired by tomorrow, and there'll be a whole new thing, a whole new slew of live things to talk about. So anytime you guys need me,
Chris,
you got my
we,
info.
we don't
Happy
call
to.
them we don't call them takes. They're not takes. They're analysis.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I'll do it anytime.
John, a question I have, coming out of that interview with Chris is that, and I don't know the answer to this, if the PGA Tour loses a number of more big stars, do the deals that they have with CBS and NBC and ESPN, are those impacted? Or, do they become, if less people are watching, and there's less stars involved, is that going to be effective? That's a big question to me when you're looking at all these defections to the LIV Tour.
Well, when they did those deals just a couple of years ago, they knew LIV was coming. So, I don't know the answer to that either. That's something worth checking into. You're giving me a to-do list, Andrew. Thank you.
John's gonna be breaking stories. That's the danger of this podcast is helping each other out. All right, let's finish up with the call of the week.
Call of the week.
The NBA, which we're in the finals, and we haven't even talked about it. What do you got, John?
NBA Finals, Game 5 from San Francisco. Jordan Poole at the end of the third quarter. Let's listen to Mike Breen.
Off the mark, rebound Wiggins. Got 3 seconds to get a shot off. Wiggins to Poole. Poole gets it off in time. Oh, he banks it in! He banks it in! They count it as the buzzer sounds.
Andrew, I don't think that was one of Mike Breen's best calls, but as a viewer, it was great to hear his voice. It's great to have him back. He brings the emotion and the voice and the big game calls. And in my opinion, he's somebody who is going to start to get into that discussion of, one of the best NBA play-by-play guys ever.
Yeah, I would say he's already in the discussion. We might have to go deeper into it. Marv Albert, to me, is the best ever. Mike Breen is great. I would say Iron Eagle's on par with him, if not slightly better right now, even though Breen does the finals. It was good to hear him back and the chemistry they have. I like that crew a lot. I know NBA fans, they go a lot of different ways, but I like that crew.
Man, I got to go. I got Montauk is waiting. The sun in the sand.
John, you guys, if you're not watching on YouTube, John is, he's ready to go. I think, are you golfing?
I'm mailing this thing in, man. Come on. No. Are you kidding me? With MLS doing a deal, I'm stuck in my hotel room writing about Eddie Q and Don Garber, for goodness sakes.
There you go. All right. Well, listen, if you're listening on Apple, and listen, all the things I said about Apple, we're going to take our ratings down. Give us a nice review, hopefully, and 5 stars help as well. And we appreciate you listening and staying with us every week.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.